Alright, hello everyone, it's Happy, and today we're going to be talking about why, in my opinion, the Foch 155 isn't as good as everyone says it is. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion, so don't hate on me for this, and keep that in mind while you watch the video. We're about to start, so grab a drink, as well as something to eat, and let's go! Alright, let's start off in the garage as usual, and the Foch 155, this tank is beautiful. So in terms of stats, I did 3,200 average damage and a 66% win rate, and I think these stats are good enough to talk about this tank in more or less depth and state out my opinion on this thing. So 3,200 wasn't too hard to do, and yeah, it was fairly easy. I didn't struggle. So let's jump into the equipment. So calibrated shells, 300 millimeters of AP penetration and 400 millimeters of heat penetration is crazy compared to what ventilation gives you. Almost nothing, a little bit of everything, and you won't feel it. Enhanced gun laying drive to reduce aiming time, and refined gun. Why? Because the accuracy on this thing is trash. Improved modules to ram people, improved assembly, everything else is standard, apart from the optics, improved optics, because we are playing on the front line. So I think that makes sense. Now coming back to the penetration, so 300 and 400 millimeters of penetration on average with both types of shells. And if you look at the alpha, the average damage on armor piercing and heat shells is 560 versus 545. So it's only a 15 HP or alpha difference. That's why I carry 10 heat shells. I need them at the start and the end of the game, or whenever I confront a heavy tank face to face. Why? Because I can smash through the upper plate of a mouse on IS-4 or whatever heavy tank with ease. Upper plate, guys, you don't even have to look through for the tank, and that's why it is very good. But you still need to carry a lot of AP shells because you don't want to be shooting heat into the side of an E100, space armor, the gun, or the tracks of other tanks, because heat will do no damage. So that's why the Foch is very special to me. In terms of provisions and consumables, everything else is standard. And let's jump into the game and talk about this tank in more depth. As usual, I have some juicy gameplay. Both games are over 6k damage, so it's going to be very good. First game, obviously, front line. Second game, on the second line, but you'll see both playstyles of the Foch. So, okay, let's talk about the advantages of the Foch first, disadvantages, and how to play afterwards, okay? So what are the advantages? The advantages is mobility. It is one of the fastest, it's not one of the fastest, it's the fastest TD. It's faster than a lot of heavies and even some mediums at the start of the game, especially with the engine boost. So that is amazing. That is amazing. At the same time, this is only frontal speed. When you're trying to go back, this thing sucks. This thing sucks. Let's say you push around the corner like here, and you see two enemies instead of one. Now you can't leave because the traverse speed on this thing is horrible. So it's very balanced, it's compensated. So the mobility, so basically the forward speed is amazing, but the backward speed is so bad. It is atrocious. You cannot go back if you peek too much, and there are a couple of enemies aiming at you, you can't leave, and so you're dead for, So that's an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time. So mobility isn't as great as you would think, as well as traverse speed, it's not the best. It is not the best. Lights and mediums will still circle you with ease, so don't think you're going to outmaneuver them or something on the spot. So that's not what the Foch is going to be able to do, right? So mobility out of the way. Now let's look at the gun. The gun is obviously a drum. It has two shots, and 545 to 560 alpha. That is decent. That's not crazy high, but at the same time, it's not crazy low. It's something in the middle. So just right. I'm not going to complain about the alpha, but some people will because it is a TD. And when you are kind of like, trading shots, some people would prefer to have a higher alpha and just peek once rather than peeking twice, for example. But that's just them. To me, the alpha isn't an issue. What is the issue? It is the accuracy. It is so bad. It is so bad. You can't hit anything at all in this thing. So especially when you're far away from someone, hitting someone is a lottery ticket. You have to win in order to hit someone. That is why the Foch can be played at the very back of the map or behind your teammates, because the accuracy is just horrible. It is trash. That's why the only way to play with the Foch is only close up. So you play next to your heavies, and you use your alpha to your advantage, as well as the 2-shot clip. So you only have 7 point something seconds in between your shots, which is very good. So you shoot both and then fall back. Right, that's a great advantage. 1,100 damage dealt, and you only get 400, 500 in return if you're 1v1ing. That's great. But the issue is accuracy. Will you hit both shells? That's the question. You might just miss one shell even if the guy is like 100 meters away, because the accuracy is just bad on this thing. That's one thing. Number two, it's the fact that you can't realize the alpha, the DPM to its full potential. That's one. And number two is the fact that your HP is not a heavy tank's HP. You only have 1,960 HP, not 3,000. It's not even 2,000. You have less than 2,000 HP, and you're fighting heavies, close range. And so you really don't know what to do with this tank sometimes, especially if the game or RNG isn't on your side. You're missing your shots. Instead, you're getting penned everywhere. And that leads me to number 3, the armor. The armor. Everyone says the armor is great. The armor is great. It depends on RNG, guys. The armor is nothing if someone loads gold. Let's be honest, the armor is nothing. Compare that to the 268, the Object 268. The 268 has such a troll armor that it deflects, gold shells all the time. This guy, he'll be fully gray. That's one. Number 2, it has so many weak points. The cupola's on the top, the lower plate, and the sides are just horrible. The sides get HE'd, guys. The sides get HE'd. And so this tank is very, very situational and RNG based. Of course, it's not team dependent, but it's not for every situation possible. And the survivability of this tank against 1 to 2 enemies is very, very low. Let's be honest, guys. The Foch isn't the best at surviving against the 1 to 2 enemies at the same time. So, we have everything covered. In terms of mobility, forward speed, so the speed forward is decent. It's very good. It's not just decent, it's very good. But the traverse speed, so the speed at which it goes backwards, is so bad. Again, your advantage is taken away, basically. Let's look at the gun. Okay, you have 560 alpha, great. You have amazing heat penetration, great. But will you hit those shots? That's the question. Will you hit those shots? Because hitting shots in the Foch is very hard, and it really depends on RNG. Sometimes you will, even without fully aiming at the tank, you'll hit the shot. Sometimes, fully aimed in, you will miss. That's just the reality, guys. The gun is very inaccurate, and so it again takes away all your advantages. And number 3, armor. People say the armor is great, blah, blah, blah. It's only frontally. Someone loads gold, your armor is done for. You have a lower plate, you have hatches, people don't even need gold. Your sides get HE'd. Again, your frontal armor, the advantage of the fact that you have a frontal armor is taken away by your horrible sides, your obvious weak spots, and so if a player is actually decent, they will pen you every single time. I don't remember me ricocheting a Foch in my heavy tanks. I just load gold, spam them. So, in my lights and mediums, I have no problem, circling this tank. So the Foch isn't as good as everyone says, and it was way too overhyped. The only way to play this tank is play with your heavies up close. Use them as bait, let the enemy shoot them, and then you peek out, give 2 shots, and then peek back in. Again, that is, you have to hit those shots. Because if you're gonna peek for your heavies, you only have 1,900 HP. That is nothing. That is one. Number 2, your accuracy is so trash, you can't play from the third line or from the very back. And so it makes the gameplay on the Foch very, very hard. So you have to be like a heavy/TD without the HP. So you peek out, you fight heavies, you brawl with them, etc, etc. And so it really depends, guys. It really depends on RNG, on your mood, and on the enemy, how skilled the enemy is, So that's what the gameplay on the Foch revolves around. But before I got this tank, everyone was saying, oh, it's OP, it's crazy, try it out. You know, I was like, wow, maybe the Foch really is one of the best TDs. No. After I got the Foch, I realized that the 268 is the most universal tank destroyer, just because of everything it has. The speed, the armor, the gun, everything is, you know, it doesn't have huge disadvantages, but the advantages aren't humongous either, so it's good at everything compared to the Foch. But that's all I had to say about the Foch, guys. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say today, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy is out. Bye-bye.